The night he chose that restaurant was the same night he finally admitted to himself that success had not saved him from loneliness. The city glittered below the glass walls like a promise that had never been kept, and as the plates were cleared from his untouched table, something small and folded lay beside the receipt, something that would stop his breath, tighten his chest, and quietly change the direction of his life forever. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion, please take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs hope today, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Ethan Cole had everything people dreamed about and nothing they warned you about. As the CEO of a billion-dollar logistics empire, his name appeared in business magazines, his face on conference banners, and his signature on deals that moved entire markets. Yet every evening, when the noise faded and the applause stopped, he returned to a penthouse that felt more like a museum than a home. The walls were cold marble, the silence louder than traffic, and the memories heavier than his tailored suit. Years ago, ambition had demanded sacrifices, and Ethan had paid without questioning the cost. A marriage dissolved quietly, friendships faded without ceremony, and family dinners were replaced by boardrooms and deadlines. He told himself it was temporary, that one day he would slow down and reclaim what he had lost. That day never came. On this particular evening, exhaustion pressed deeper than usual. A failed acquisition, angry shareholders, and a headline that questioned his leadership followed him like a shadow. He chose a small upscale restaurant not far from his office, hoping anonymity might soften the edges of the day. He sat alone, staring through the window as rain traced slow lines down the glass, wondering how a man surrounded by people could feel so invisible. That was when he noticed them. A homeless family entered hesitantly, as if expecting to be turned away at any moment. The father's shoulders were bent by more than the weight of a threadbare jacket. The mother held her children close, her eyes scanning the room with quiet apology. The youngest child, a boy no older than 7, clutched a worn backpack like it was the only solid thing left in his world. The hostess hesitated, then guided them to a corner table, her smile polite but uncertain. Ethan watched without fully understanding why. Perhaps it was the way the boy looked around, wide-eyed, as if the lights and warmth were something rare and fragile. Perhaps it was the mother's careful movements, trying to make the children feel safe in a place that reminded them of everything they didn't have. When the waiter approached their table, the parents exchanged a look that carried fear and calculation, the kind that comes from counting coins before counting hope. Without announcing himself, Ethan signaled the waiter and quietly asked that whatever the family wanted be added to his bill. There was no grand gesture, no desire to be thanked. It was an impulse born from a strange ache he didn't yet recognize. He returned his attention to his own table, feeling nothing more than a dull sense of obligation fulfilled. The family ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it might disappear. The children smiled more freely as the plates emptied, their laughter soft but real. When they were finished, the parents gathered their things quickly, gratitude written into every movement. As they passed Ethan's table on the way out, the little boy lingered for just a moment. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't speak. He simply placed something on the edge of the table and followed his family into the rain. Ethan noticed it only after the door closed behind them. At first, he thought it was trash, something accidentally dropped. But when he reached for it, his fingers froze. It was a small piece of paper, carefully folded and creased, with a child's uneven handwriting and a simple drawing of a man standing under a bright sun. Beneath the drawing were words that struck deeper than any headline or loss he had ever known. The note thanked him for the dinner, but more than that, it thanked him for making them feel seen. It said the boy hoped that one day Ethan would not feel alone anymore. Something inside Ethan cracked open. His throat tightened, and for the first time in years, he didn't push the feeling away. He sat there long after the restaurant emptied, staring at the note like it was a mirror reflecting everything he had become and everything he had neglected. That child, with nothing to give, had offered him something priceless, recognition of his loneliness. In the days that followed, the note stayed with him, folded carefully in his wallet. Board meetings felt hollow, profits meaningless. He found himself scanning streets instead of spreadsheets, searching faces instead of figures. The world he had ignored for so long now demanded his attention. He began visiting shelters quietly, not as a donor seeking praise but as a listener trying to understand. He learned names, stories, losses. Each encounter chipped away at the walls he had built around himself. Ethan didn't transform overnight. He struggled with guilt, with the weight of realizing how much time he had wasted chasing approval that never satisfied him. There were nights he sat alone, holding that note, wondering if redemption was even possible at his age, with his past. But slowly, purpose replaced emptiness. He funded programs that focused not just on food and beds but on dignity and opportunity. He used his influence to create jobs for those society had discarded, offering training instead of handouts, belief instead of pity. Months later, on a cold evening that echoed the night everything changed, Ethan returned to that same restaurant. This time, he wasn't alone. He had invited a small group from a local shelter, people whose stories had intertwined with his own healing. Laughter filled the table, awkward at first, then genuine. As he watched them eat, he felt something unfamiliar and overwhelming, belonging. He never saw the boy again, and perhaps that was the point. Some people enter our lives only long enough to wake us up. The note remained framed on his desk, a quiet reminder that kindness doesn't need recognition to be powerful, and that even the most successful lives can be empty until they are shared. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can find their way into the world. And before this story ends, leave a comment telling us what kindness means to you, because your words might be the hope someone else needs today. Ethan Cole learned that night that loneliness isn't cured by wealth or applause, but by connection, by seeing and being seen. And somewhere, in a world that often forgets its gentlest souls, a child's small act of gratitude proved that even the most broken days can become the beginning of something beautiful.